Welcome to the 59th Star Trophy Urnersee at the StarSailors League stop in Lake Brunnen, Switzerland, a place with a rich history. It is from here Switzerland is believed to have started its journey towards the nation it is today. Huge mountains rise out of the water on both sides and reminiscent of a Norwegian fjord. That's why Brunnen is considered as a touristic location and attracts lots of tourists throughout the year. The 59th Star Trophy Urnersee would be a really competitive event this year, with top Swiss teams participating and the 2012 winning team of Germans Rotermund Philipp and Holvig Niels willing to maintain the prestigious title. The weather forecast shows tricky windy conditions accompanied with light rain throughout the whole weekend. But let's remember now what happened 2 months in Miami at the Miami Sailing Week and the Bacardi Cup, the previous stop on the StarSailors League. It was a week with glorious sun and light to medium winds where Marc Mendel-Blatt showed his superiority. Starting with an OCS, he managed to climb on top and won the title at the very last race, leaving Lars Grgøire second and Xavier Rahar third. Let's see how the league will unfold till the grand final in December 2013. Let's go back to Brunnen for the first day of the 59th Star Trophy Urnersee, with the sailors preparing their boats from early on. Though the weather did not look promising in the morning, the rain prevented the wind to develop and there was no other choice than staying inshore. However, the sailors seemed excited participating in this event and in the brand new StarSailors League.
Yeah, it's pity that the Stark lost the Olympic status. I think it was a bad decision because it's opposite to what ISAF was, the International Olympic Committee wants of sailing, that it represented the sport, and 50% of sailing is on keelboats. So it's the class where everybody ends when they do a career starting in lasers, and so it's a very high tactical level. And now the Swedish StarSailors League, I think it's a good possibility that we can keep all the good sailors in the class and continue this high level racing. I think the idea with having prize money and a ranking list that's allowed the good people also to sail professionally in other classes and still coming back to the Star is a concept that is working very well.
After several hours of waiting, the fleet finally hit the water and the boats headed out to the racing area. At the one and only race of the day, the Germans' local sailor Rotermund Philipp with crew Holvig Niels started on starboard close to the committee boat and quickly headed to the left side of the racetrack, closer to shore. Swiss sailors Chattagny Jean-Pascal and crew Duconon Patrick were the first to tack and then, after a less than great start, headed to the right side of the racecourse. At first it was difficult to see who had managed to cross ahead, but eventually it was the Germans' familiarity with Urnersee that helped them prevail and saw them round the mark in second place, right behind the Swiss team of Christoph Berger and Renato Marazzi. If the name's familiar, it's because Renato's the brother of the Swiss Olympian Flavio Marazzi. The battles continued on downwind, with the Germans closing in on the Swiss and rounding the bottom gate with less than a boat length between the two teams. The Swiss duo of Wietig Jörg and crew Traschild Christian was in third place, followed by the rest of the fleet. In the second upwind, the majority of the fleet soon tacked and headed for the left, a more favourable side of the race course. Now it was Berger and Marazzi that felt the pressure from Rotermund and Holvig, and so always staying on windward, keeping a close guard on their rivals. But it was the Germans that managed to sail faster at the very end, and so forced the Swiss team to bear away behind them and drop to second place. Although both of them had a safe lead from the rest of the fleet, a gust helped Wittig and Traschild close in on the Swiss team and managed to put their bow deeper. This was certainly a serious threat at this point in the race. With the Germans rounding first and heading to the finish line, all eyes were now turned to the fight for second place, but Berger and Marazzi managed to stay ahead and secured the second place. Wittig and Traschild had to settle for third.
We won last year, so hopefully we're going to be in the top 3 again. Again, last year we had completely different weather conditions. We had the nice wind, so it is blowing pretty strong, and speed is more of a matter in the stronger conditions, because the sides are pretty clear which is favored. In this weather conditions, you have to say a little bit more tactic. I wouldn't say that is our strong side, but yeah, we hope that we're going to finish on the top 3 again. That I think it would be a decent goal.
After a cold and tiring day for the sailors, it still is quite early to predict which teams will feature at the top spots come the end of the weekend. With a total of 8 races still scheduled, many things can still change. Tomorrow's weather forecast is more promising, and so the race committee should be able to cover the lost ground and complete more races. Second day of the 59th Star Trophy Urnersee, and the weather was not very promising from early on. Nonetheless, the skies eventually cleared and the boats headed to start their second race of the event. Today's weather was very shifty and very unpredictable from the start of the race. The majority of the fleet preferred to stay close to the committee boat end in order to be able to sail longer towards the rocky wall that surrounds Lake Lucerne. A stunning view and a great background for the 26 teams competing here. The top boats from yesterday's race were packed together on leeward, and it was clear from early on that they would head for the left side of the racetrack, aiming to take advantage of the wind shift near the shore. Some of the fleet were forced to head to the right for a better position, but already by the middle of the upwind, the boats who had chosen the left side of the track had claimed an advantage. First to reach the weather mark, having sailed up the left side of the course, were the Russians Andrei Breznov and crew Sergei Maslov, who had a great lead from the rest of the fleet and with very little pressure from any boats behind them, tacked around the top mark and headed onto the downwind leg. They were the only Russian team competing here, and along with the 2 German teams, they break the Swiss domination of the event, giving an international perspective. Just behind the Russians, it was the Swiss pair of Jörg Wittig and Christian Traschel, who also had secured a safe lead over the rest of the pack, and after a 3rd place in yesterday's race, were on their way to climb a few more places up the leaderboard. But the overall leaders, Germany's Philipp Rotmund and crew Niels Holvig, were not ready to relinquish their top place on the leaderboard and followed in 3rd, leading a big pack with the Swiss boat of Jean-Pascal Chatanet and Patrick Ducomont slipping in from the inside. The fleet soon jibed and headed to the right side of the racecourse, with the Russians still maintaining their lead and heading for the bottom gate looked certain to take the win. But the interest was further back in the fleet now, as the Germans were starting to feel the pressure from the 2 Swiss boats of Lorenz Zimmermann and Tobias Zimmermann on leeward, and Urs Hunkeler with crew Enrico Di Maria on windward. The experience of Di Maria crewing for Flavio Marazzi at the 2012 Olympic Games could really make the difference, and the Germans knew that. The 3 boats reached the bottom mark together, and their fight during the downwind leg had helped to close the gap to 2nd place and Vidic with Traschel to 0. The 4 boats rounded together, and it was now all or nothing for 2nd place. At the same time, the Russians chose to again head for the left side, trying to repeat their success of the first upwind. Even though they had a safe lead from the rest, a big wind shift at the right side of the course forced them to tack in order to hold on to their place. The wind then dropped dramatically, and the race committee decided to shorten the race and finish the fleet at the weather mark. This opportunity was grasped by the Swiss pair of Vidic and Trachel, who hit the left corner of the course and took advantage of the stronger wind that gave them the extra speed needed to slip into first and claim first place on the leaderboard. Seconds across the finish line were their teammates Grgoire and crew Alex Guda, who looked happy with their place. Yesterday's leader, the Germans Ruttermund and Hulvig, did everything not to lose the top place on the leaderboard, and after finishing in third place are now on equal points with the Swiss. The big losers of the day were the Russian team, who finally finished in fifth place. With only 2 races sailed and no discard in the game, every mistake counts now at the 59th Star Trophy Urnersee. With the breeze expected to be stronger tomorrow, many teams are hoping 2 races to be sailed in order for a discard to come into play. Though the third and final day of the event did not start out well, with optimism low for racing to get underway. The picturesque location of Brunnen in Switzerland is a unique racing area, but today the weather had its own opinion, and the consistent rain that took over all day prevented the wind from establishing itself and kept all the fleet ashore.
As you can see, the weather is not as we expected it would be, but the racing is nice. We had 2 races with good conditions and was quite demanding. And yeah, I like to be here with the people I know from, or I've been knowing for the last 10 years, and yeah, we do other things than sailing at the moment. We're waiting. Hopefully there will be some sailing today, but I will see.
The first 2 days of the event had delivered some very close racing, and the unique geographical shape of Lake Lucerne offered a great arena for racing. Its narrow width keeps the fleet together, and so the action is much closer between the boats, and it is harder to establish larger margins of advantage. The fight for first place finally came to a head, and the German pair of Ruttermund and Hulvig, who opened the series with a bullet, could not continue their opening performance and were overtaken by the Swiss pair of Vidic and Trachel, who benefited from the shifty weather of day 2 and slipped into first place. Today, finally, the skies did not clear up, and the race committee was forced to abandon all attempts to get racing underway and call it a day. Disappointment that there was no racing, but a great outcome for the Swiss team of Vidic and Trachel, who were crowned the new champions of the Star Trophy Urnersee.
Yeah, it was quite difficult conditions here. So the first race we had a nice start. Came up with the first group of 5-6 boats and managed to come up to third place. So we finished on third. And yesterday on the second race we came on the first upwind mark as second team after the Russians. It was very close, so Philip did the first and the third, and we did the third and the first, so we have same points, but we won the last race, so we are first now. No, we are very excited about that result. It was our first race at all this year, so we had a long stop in winter.
In regattas like this, where every race counts, the goal is consistency, and the top sailors knew that. At the end, it all came very close, and the winner was decided from a tie. The prestigious trophy that represents almost 60 years of tradition did not remain in the hands of the defending champion from 2012, Rottermund Philipp, with crew Hulvig Niels, and it will now be Vidic and Trachel whose names go on the roll call of trophy holders. The award ceremony followed soon after the decision to abandon any more racing. Big celebrations and congratulations to the winners. Even though there were very few races, the championship was fiercely contested, and all sailors were happy with the quality of close racing that took place. Next year, in 2014, the Star Trophy Urnersee will celebrate its 60th year, and another great event is guaranteed.